My Catholic Faith, Lesson 171, Dispensations from Matrimonial Impediments. The contracting party should go before the priest for instruction before a projected marriage. Should there be any impediment, arrangements should be made for a dispensation. This should be done at least a month before the ceremony to allow time for the marriage preparations. Does the Church have the authority to excuse or grant dispensations from all impediments? The Church can grant dispensations only from such impediments as arise from its own laws, but not from such as arise from divine or natural laws. Impediments of the natural law, which is only part of the divine law, are unchangeable and cannot be given any dispensation. An example is the marriage of a parent and child, or of a married person whose spouse is still living. Dispensations are granted when there is sufficient reason or need. The bishop and the parish priest have the authority to investigate each case. Not all impediments are granted dispensation with equal ease. Prohibitive impediments are more easily granted dispensations than diriment ones. Very rarely can a dispensation be obtained from solemn vows or from major orders when one of the contracting parties is unbaptized, or when the proposed marriage is between such close blood relations as uncle and niece, aunt and nephew. In order to discourage unnecessary seeking after dispensations, a fee is required. These fees help to maintain the matrimonial courts established to safeguard marriage. Matrimonial dispensations are granted in favour of a contemplated marriage or to legitimize one already contracted. The poor are granted dispensations without charge. Mixed marriages. A marriage between a Catholic and a non-Catholic baptized Christian and a marriage between a Catholic and a non-baptized person are both called mixed marriages. For a marriage between a Catholic and a non-Catholic baptized Christian, there is a prohibitive impediment. For a marriage between a Catholic and a non-baptized person, there is a diriment impediment. The differences between these two kinds of impediments are explained on pages 362 and 363. The Church forbids its members to marry non-Catholics because such marriages may bring family discord, neglect, indifference, and even loss of faith on the part of the Catholic. It also happens that the religious training of the children is neglected. The non-Catholic may wish to practice birth control or is liable to a divorce and contracting another marriage according to his or her church principles. The Church grants a dispensation for a mixed marriage under these conditions. The non-Catholic has to promise not to endanger the faith of the Catholic. Divine law forbids mixed marriages as long as there is danger to the faith of the Catholic or of the children. The Catholic has to promise to give good example and pray that God bring them closer together in one faith. The Catholic and non-Catholic must promise to have all children born of the marriage baptized and reared as Catholics. The Church shows its disapproval of mixed marriages even after a dispensation has been granted. The bans are not published, the nuptial blessing at Mass not given, a permission is needed to have the ceremony in the church. Does the Church allow Catholics to marry during Lent and Advent? The Church allows Catholics to marry during the so-called closed seasons of Lent and Advent, provided they do so quietly and refrain from pomp. It is an error to think that the Church prohibits the contracting of marriage on any day of the year. It merely prohibits celebrations or signs of rejoicing that do not harmonize with the spirit of the penitential seasons, that is, during Lent and Advent. Marriage can take place any day of the year. Nuptial Mass is not permitted on all Sundays and on liturgical days of first class. There are about 30 such days. Nuptial blessing at Mass may be given on any day except All the Faithful Departed Day, November the 2nd, and during the Sacred Triduum, Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and Holy Saturday. The nuptial blessing is given during Mass by the priest who offers it. It is omitted if the spouses are not present or have already received it. The closed season of Lent is from Ash Wednesday to Easter Sunday inclusive, and the closed season of Advent from the first Sunday of Advent to Christmas inclusive. During these two penitential seasons, the Church wishes the faithful to avoid setting a date for the celebration of their marriage. However, if there should be a just reason for it, she expects the parties to refrain from too much pomp. Thus, noisy banquets, balls, and dances would be out of place. During closed seasons, the permission of the bishop is required for the celebration of a solemn marriage, that is, with nuptial mass, or at least the nuptial blessing during mass. When does the Church declare a marriage null? The Church declares a marriage null when, after detailed investigation, the facts prove that from the very beginning there had been no marriage, there had been no validity. Nullity declares that no marital bond had ever existed. This is not to be confounded with divorce, which is a juridical act cutting an existing invalid marital bond. When a marriage is annulled, since therefore there has been no real matrimony, the parties to the invalid contract are set free to marry other partners, or they may regularize the marriage by a valid ceremony. When the Church annuls a marriage, declaring it invalid, the parties may apply for a civil divorce with the permission of the ordinary.